Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we have talked about playwright uh, preparation guide and interview questions and answers which are frequently asked along with scenario based. Okay, so let's get started with the table of contents. If you need this PDF or the study material, I have given a link in the description and also in the comment section. Please do check out. Okay, let's get started. So in the table of contents, we have clearly mentioned, we have talked about fundamentals of Playwright, setup and configuration process, core concepts, commands and cheat sheet, advanced concepts, API testing, network handling, CI/CD integration, real-time scenarios, performance and optimization, security testing, mobile and cross-browser testing, interview questions and answers, hands-on coding part, and cheat sheet summary. Okay, so let's get started. In the section 1 we have talked about the fundamentals of playwright. Okay, so here we have discussed what is a playwright. Okay, playwright is an open source end-to-end test automation framework developed by Microsoft. It provides a single API to automate Chromium, Firefox and WebKit browsers, including headless execution. Okay, it has been officially released in 2020. It quickly became the go-to framework for modern web test automation due to its speed, reliability and powerful built-in feature set. Okay, so these are some of the important features of Playwright. It supports cross-browser testing, it supports cross-platform, it supports cross-language, and it supports auto-waiting mechanism, and it supports on the network interception, and it helps us in tracing and making the video recording. Okay, so in the next topic, we have talked about the architecture and how Playwright works. Okay, and then we have talked about the difference between Playwright, Selenium, and Cypress. Then we have discussed on what are the languages and browsers Playwright usually support. Okay, so these are part of fundamentals. In the section 2, we have discussed about the setup and configuration. Okay, this is a project structure. Okay, where we'll have test folder, pages folder, fixtures folder, utils folder, test data folder, and we will have playwright.config.ts file, package.json file, and the respective project specific files. Okay, in the test folder, it specifically contains the test file, and pages contains the page object model. Sorry, pages folder contains the page object models. Fixtures folder contains the custom fixtures. Utility folder contains the helper utilities, and test data folder contains the data in the format of JSON file or in the CSV file or in the Excel file. Okay, so in the playwright.config.ts, it contains the configuration of main playwright settings. .env file contains the environment variables. Okay, so and similarly for project specific we have package.json and tsconfig.json. Okay, so in the next topic we have talked deeply about playwright.config.ts file. Okay, we have commented, so try to read the comment on what and all it helps. It helps in the test recovery. It shows on how the tests run in parallel, what are the settings we are making. We have talked about the retries, reporters, and global option settings, and about the projects and multiple things. Okay, so this is all about playwright.config.ts file, and we have talked about the environment setup. So in the .env file, okay, you can see these are the particular specific things that we will mention, and in real time industry level projects, it depends upon project to project on what parameters they need to include. Okay, and what are the environments they have. So all the parameters with respect to the URL or the passes or the tokens will go into the .env file. Okay, and a sample code on how we can access environment variable in the tests. Okay, this is all about section 2. In the section 3 we have talked about the Playwright core concepts. Okay, here we have talked about the browser, context and page, and then we have talked about the types of locators Playwright supports and the best practices and the anti-patterns. Okay, in the next section we have talked about the auto weighting mechanism. Okay, in the next section we have talked about the assertions and expect API. Okay, yeah, in the section 4 we have talked about the commands and cheat sheet. Okay, here you can see the some of the navigation and few other commands, and then in the next topic we have discussed about the element actions. Okay, on the variants types of click, and about the inputs, and about the drop down handling, and about the checkbox or radio buttons, and handling, and about getting the text or attribute. Okay, in the next topic we have talked about the weighting mechanism. Okay, so the type of weights and specific code for the weight. Okay, in the next section we have talked about the keyboard and mouse actions. Okay, you can see this is a piece of code for keyboard, this is a piece of code for mouse, and for mouse over for handling the drag and drop, and for performing manual drag. Okay, and in the next section we have talked about the file upload and download. Okay, so you can see a syntax or a sample line on how do we perform file upload, and a sample code on how do we perform file download. Okay, in the next section we have talked about the screenshots and videos. This is a sample piece of code for screenshots, and a sample piece of code for video. Okay, if we want this video feature to be enabled, we have to configure it in playwright.config.ts file. Okay, and in the next topic we have talked about the iframe handling. Okay, so you can see right here, so how we can access the iframe by locator, by name or URL, and how we can access it through nested iframes, and how we can get all the frames. Okay, in the section 5 we have talked about the advanced concepts. Okay, here we can see we have talked about the parallel execution and workers, and we have talked about the fixtures and custom fixtures. Okay, in the next topic we have talked about the hooks. Okay, and in the next topic we have talked about the page object model. A sample example. In the next topic we have talked about the data driven testing process. In the next topic we have talked about a sample piece of code on globe retry mechanism. Again, in the next topic we have talked about test tagging and filtering. In the section 6 we have talked specifically with respect to the API testing with Playwright. Okay, this is a sample piece of code for API request context. Okay, yes, here you can see two different types of code. One with respect to the standalone API test where no browser is needed, and the next piece of code is a custom API request context with auth headers. Okay, in the next topic we have talked about the CRUD operations. Here you can see the multiple requests code, piece of code for multiple requests: get, post, put and patch and delete. Okay, and in the next topic we have talked about the schema validation. Okay, in the section 7 we have talked about the network handling. Okay, here you can see we have spoken about mocking APIs. Okay, You can see some sample piece of code on how to mock a get response, how to mock an error, and how to mock from a JSON fixture file, and how to remove a mock. Okay. In the next topic, we have talked about intercepting and modifying the request. In the next topic, we have talked about how to handle the slow networks. Okay. In the next section, we have talked about the CI/CD integration. Here you can see we have talked about the GitHub Actions workflow. And we have talked about the Allure reporting setup. Okay. And then we have talked about the test sharding for CI parallelism. Okay. In the section 9, we have discussed the real-time scenarios and possible edge cases. Okay. So in the first topic, we have discussed on how to handle the flaky tests and what are the types of fixes we can provide with a sample piece of code. Similarly, we have talked about dynamic elements handling. In the next topic, again, we can see a sample piece of code on how to handle the shadow DOM elements. And in the next topic, we have seen on how to handle the multiple tabs or windows. In the next topic, we have seen on how we can do the authentication handling. Again, in the next topic, we can see on how to handle the CAPTCHA or OTP strategies. The next topic, we can see race conditions. In the section 10, we can see about the performance and optimization. On speed improvements, we have talked about the speed improvement strategies. We have talked about the smart weights and hard weights. In the section 11, we have talked about the security testing basics. Here, we have specifically talked about JWT token validation, security headers and unauthorized access. Okay, you can see the sample example. In the section 12, we have talked about the mobile and cross-browser testing. Okay, you can see a sample piece of code for device emulation. Okay. In the section 13, we have focused on interview questions and answers. Okay, so these are the beginner level interview questions, starting from what is Playwright, what languages does Playwright support, what browser does Playwright support. So all the basic initial level beginner questions. Okay, so please go through this. How do you take a screenshot? How do you fill a form field? What is get by role preferred for a locator? How do you assert a page title? Okay, how do you run the play tests? And what is headless mode? How to handle the drop downs? How do you configure the base URL and many other questions? Okay, so and the next set of interview questions are with respect to the intermediate level, like what is a POM page object model and why do we use it? Can you explain the fixtures in Playwright? How do you handle file downloads, softer sessions and harder sessions, iframes, test tags, retry mechanisms, handling the pop-ups or dialogues, about the API request context, about the network response, and handling the multi-browser, and about specific browser projects, about debugging the failing test, and how to validate the API schema, on how to test the date pickers, okay, and multiple other things. Okay, and then the next set of interview questions are with respect to the advanced level, so on how we can explain the Playwright's architecture and many other things. Okay, all these are advanced level, so you have to be thorough with all these questions. Okay, so and the next set of interview questions are scenario based. Okay, you can see some of the scenarios like test fails on CI continuous integration tool or the server but passes locally. How do you debug? How do you test a login flow with two-factor authentication or OTP. How do you automate a multi-step checkout? How do you handle tests that must run in a specific order? And these are the coding questions which you can expect in the interview on how to write a complete login test with valid and invalid scenarios. Okay, on how to write a test that mocks an API and verify UI renders mock data. In the section 14, we have talked about the hands-on coding section. Here you can see the complete end-to-end login test. Here you can see the page object model framework example. And you can see a sample code for AI plus UI combined test. And here you can see a sample code for complete mocking. In the section 15, we have talked about the quick revision cheat sheet for all the modules on about the navigation, locators, actions, assertions, weights, network mocking, API testing, and config keys, and hooks and CLI commands. Okay. Here in the bonus section, that's the final section where we have talked about the common mistakes in Playwright usually everyone makes. So please go through this thoroughly while working in the real time and some of the interview tips for SDET job roles. Okay, and these are some of the resume tips that you can optimize and incorporate while applying for the jobs. Okay, so this is a all-in-one guide. It really helps for interview preparation. I have given this PDF in the link that I mentioned in the description and also in the comment section. Please do check out and let me know if you have any queries or questions. Thank you so much for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview. Happy learning, happy testing. Stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.